Hey everybody, welcome to Fantasy R&R. This is your host Ryan.
And I'm Robert.
And this is our Fantasy Football Week 5 preview.
This is Fantasy with Rob and Ryan, Fantasy R&R.
Just like last time, we're going to hit every game on the schedule this week and give you our breakout fantasy players for that game.
Rams at Seahawks.
I'm going to go with Alex Collins on this one. You guys remember who Alex Collins is? He's been on a number of teams over the years, Ravens, Seahawks, all these different teams. He is actually probably going to be in place of Chris Carson this week, who's been struggling to get the ball down the field in the first place. Going up against the Los Angeles Rams is no easy task, but I think that if Alex Collins takes over, he's one of those bruising running backs. You're going to see about 80 yards and maybe a couple of goal line TDs.
Yeah, I'm going Van Jefferson. I mean, we already know that Cooper Kupp and Robert Woods are 1 and 2 there. I believe Van Jefferson is getting those wide receiver 3 reps in. He's getting targeted, a couple touchdowns already this season. Was a good wide receiver out in Florida for the Florida Gators. So let's see him become a legitimate Rams weapon.
Jets at Falcons.
You know, I'm going to say Kyle Pitts here. This has been one of the most frustrating situations for fantasy managers, especially in the rookie dynasty leagues. You're not getting the return value you thought you were going to get for someone who's drafted so high. Only 15 catches on the entire season. Barely, and I mean barely, over 180 yards. No touchdowns yet. This is going to be the week against the New York Jets. Who are the New York Jets? Who cares? They suck. Kyle Pitts is getting a touchdown this week.
All right, and I'm going with the London crowd who has to sit through this bullshit. Best of luck to you, mateys. Get some toothpaste.
Packers at Bengals.
Why don't I say Tyler Boyd this time? With T. Higgins, who's still questionable, probably come back to play, and Jamar Chase, Joe Mixon being out, and them having to rely on Samaje Perine, I think Tyler Boyd is going to be that veteran target in this game that they're really just going to go after. He's been a solid pick over the years, kind of like a poor man's Tyler Lockett, if you will. I think Tyler Boyd, with the seasons he's put up already, 118 yards last game, touchdown the game before that, 10-plus point fantasy performance before that. Tyler Boyd is your man against the Green Bay Packers defense.
Yeah, I'm going to stick with the Bengals here. I'm going CJ Uzoma. Had a big week last week against the Jacksonville Jaguars. So let's see if this is going to be a trend or it ends here. I'm very interested to see. Everybody needs tight end help. Why not look at Uzoma here with, Burrows in there slinging it the way he has been this season.
Lions at Vikings.
I'm going to take a guy named Khalif Raymond. This feels like it's just cherry-picked because of a knee-jerk reaction from last week, but really keep your eye on what's happening with this guy. He didn't break 10 points against Baltimore in Week 3, but he had 10 targets. The other wide receiver that Jared Goff's targeting heavily right now is Quintez Cephas. He seems to be the main guy, but I think Khalif Raymond is starting to emerge as that Marvin Jones Jr. from a while ago on the Lions, who seems to be that sneaky second wide receiver 2 play that gets in those little pockets and picks up a bunch of yards. Raymond's only 5'6". He's got a lot of speed. 2 touchdowns last week. I think he can repeat at Minnesota's Dome going forward.
Yeah, I'm going with Kirk Cousins. He has been very good so far to start the season. He has 2 of the best weapons, I believe, with Justin Jefferson and Adam Thielen. Let's see if this continues. The Lions' defense is nothing to be to shy away from, so I believe he could end up having a very big game and potentially solidifying himself right now as a top quarterback in fantasy this season.
Broncos at Steelers.
For the 3rd time in a row, I'm just going to pick Naji Harris. Juju Smith-Schuster's been struggling. Deontay Johnson, Chase Claypool struggling or with injuries. Ben Roethlisberger struggling. Bad offensive line. They are depending on Naji Harris to basically be the bulk of their offense every week. This is a great rookie addition to everybody's team. And for someone who probably went first overall in the dynasty leagues, I think you're getting pretty decent value. Naji Harris going up a Denver Broncos defense that's going to be better in the secondary than it is against the run. I think that Naji Harris is going to put up another performance worthy of any fantasy manager's smile in the pants.
Yeah, and I'm going for with Drew Lock. If Teddy Bridgewater isn't playing due to the concussion protocol, let's see how many times Drew Lock can be sacked. Fuck you, Drew Lock.
Dolphins at Buccaneers.
I keep going back to Devontae Parker like a whore ex-girlfriend, and that's who I'm taking this week. even though it's up against Tampa Bay's defense in Tampa, Devontae Parker's probably going to be your guy. Jacoby Brissett has not been as bad as everybody thinks. Myles Gaskin has, though. So Devontae Parker's going to be a big target. Gesicki seems to be bouncing back, but they're going to have him covered because, they've seen the success he's had the past couple weeks. Will Fuller is out on IR again. So Parker, who was limited at practice on Wednesday with a shoulder injury, should play this week. Keep him monitored in your fantasy lineups.
Yeah, I'm going with my boy Chris Godwin on this one. I've been waiting for Chris Godwin to have that Chris Godwin-esque game. I believe it happens here with a very shady Dolphins defense where even the Colts were able to put some points on it. So Tom Brady and the boys are going to be getting it done. Here in this one, I just want to see Chris Godwin get a couple TDs. Throw me 100 yards, Chris. I'd really appreciate it, buddy. Thank you so much in advance.
Saints at Washington football team.
This is the time for Alvin Kamara to finally explode. We all know that he can have 30 to 40-point games. It's happened plenty of times. Probably one of the most exciting running backs to come out of the 2017 draft because Fournette's been, fairly mediocre or inconsistent, even though he's got a Super Bowl ring. And guys like Dalvin Cook just keep getting injured over and over again. Alvin Kamara has pretty much been the consistent running back for fantasy managers, but this year, even though he's putting up the yards, he has yet to have a rushing touchdown. He's got a couple of receiving touchdowns, but he's ranked position 14 in fantasy running backs. That's just not like him. Going up against Washington, whose defense hasn't been as solid as I was hoping it would be, I think he finally breaks through to be the Saints offense, and he's going to put up that 20-point plus fantasy performance.
Yeah, I'm kind of piggybacking here on the Washington defense being a little lax this season. I'm going with Juwan Johnson. I'm going to keep preaching this guy's name. He's been playing tight end. I'm not the biggest Winston supporter here, but Juwan Johnson needs the ball more. Had another touchdown just this past game. Again, tight end is in such a disarray yet again this season and could be a potential solid flex later on in the season. Keep a very close eye out on Juwan Johnson, tight end for the New Orleans Saints.
Eagles at Panthers.
In this matchup, I'm actually going to be taking the Carolina Panthers D. We don't know if McCaffrey is actually going to be back. Sam Darnold has been playing good, slow-hanging fruit to continue to say he's going to do good. Rob, you called that last year. We already know that Sam Darnold was going to be a fantastic quarterback on the Panthers, and he'll continue to be very solid going forward. But the defense right now started off great. I thought they were going to be a good defense this year, but anybody who started them with confidence against the Cowboys, you're out of your mind. We knew that wasn't going to work out with the way the Cowboys offense has been. But going into Philadelphia, as much as it pains me to say this, I think Jalen Hurts could possibly have one of the worst performances of his season so far, end up throwing a couple of picks or fumbling to guys like Brian Burns, who really press the rush and can defend man in the secondary. They're going to be on it this game. I think this is a great matchup for the Carolina Panthers D.
Yeah, I'm even going to say this is my game of the week, by the way, Eagles-Panthers. I think this is going to be a shootout. Very fun game to watch. The Panthers defense are going to have a lot on their hands. The thing that I'm really keeping a close eye on is the Eagles running game. Will it exist? Miles Sanders, what is going on here? 3 carries last week. 3. You started on my team. Not good. I need to see more from Miles Sanders. He's a very good, very, very good rusher. He's great with the hands. Why isn't he being utilized? I have no clue. Miles Sanders, this is your last chance, buddy.
Titans at Jaguars.
I don't even want to talk about this one. The winner is anyone who doesn't watch this shit pile of a matchup.
Yeah, I'm going to have to agree with you on this one. Just to push it a little further, if Urban Meyers-Dick was on the waiver wire and I had a potential to pick him up for any of my teams, I would have picked him up. Go Urban Meyers-Dick.
Patriots at Texans.
Damien Harris is going to be my bounce back performance. Terrible against Tampa Bay, terrible against New Orleans. It was almost expected. Bill Belichick is absolutely frustrating with his rushing decisions. We rarely ever see a running back who deserves 20 carries get 20 carries. Damien Harris had over 20 carries in the first week against Miami, and he averaged over 4 yards a carry for a 100-yard performance. Makes no sense why he's not getting the ball. I think going up against this terrible Houston team that can't keep their defense off the field, their defense isn't very good anyway, Damien Harris is going to have a bounce-back performance. We saw him get a little bit of receiving work last game. Maybe those two things start to come together, and you see your first Damien Harris breakout performance.
Yeah, and I'm staying on the same side of the ball there. Mac Jones, if you're going to do something, this is your chance to do something. The Texans do not deserve to win a game the rest of the season, albeit maybe playing the Jaguars. Even then, I don't believe you're going to win that game again. Mac Jones, it is your time to shine. This defense is terrible. If you're going to sling the ball, sling the ball. Make it happen. Mac Jones against the Texans defense should be a pretty easy win.
Bears at Raiders.
I'm going to say Allen Robinson. Who could be more frustrated this season so far than Allen Robinson owners? You probably had this guy locked in as a wide receiver 1 or a wide receiver 2, and you didn't bother getting too much help in the rookie draft. Or if you did a redraft, you probably took this guy, I'd have to assume like 3rd, 4th round. So it's one of those situations where I think he's finally going to break out and have that performance we all want him to. Matt Nagy, you sly son of a bitch. You tricked Andy Dalton. Hilarious. Don't blame you. Justin Fields is coming in to start, and I think even though Justin Fields is struggling, we're seeing the ball get down the field over 20 yards and multiple passes. Robinson himself averaged over 20 yards a catch last week. Let's see that happen against a questionable Raiders defense.
Yeah, again, I'm staying on the same side of the ball. We're seeing eye to eye here today, Ryan. Justin Fields, it's going to be this game. It's only a matter of time until the Fields-Robinson hookup becomes a regular thing. Fields, of course, is the better option to Andy Dalton. We all know this. Matt Nagy knew this. Ryan knew this. I knew this. Come on. Fields is going to make it happen this week. Fields to Robinson, long touchdown. I already see it coming.
Browns at Chargers.
All right, well, certainly not Mike Williams. Fucking told you so. 1 catch for 11 yards. This guy's an asshole. This is what he's going to do to your fantasy team for the rest of the season. So everybody whose dick got hard for the first 3 weeks of the Mike Williams show, it's fucking over. Fade to black, no encore. Mike Williams, you're done.
And on a positive note, Austin Eckler looked pretty good last week. I think there should be nobody questioning whether or not you should be starting Eckler each week. You should. In fact, Austin Eckler is a monster of a man. Play him. Chargers look really good. Herbert looks fantastic. Anybody pretty much not named Mike Williams looking pretty good so far this season.
Giants at Cowboys.
All right, so this one's going to be a shout out to our friend Michael on Twitter, who took his shirt off to win an argument with me. Who was better, Saquon versus David Montgomery? How'd that fucking work out for you, asshole? Saquon Barkley, 4 yards a carry in this last week, 28 fantasy points, had a touchdown on the ground, 70 yards receiving, touchdown in the air. He is back. The Saquon show is beginning again while David Montgomery sits his ass out for the next 4 weeks or so. Gotcha, Michael. Go fuck yourself.
Yep, I have nobody to shout out here other than Kadarius Toney. I did say a couple weeks ago, keep a close eye on him. Had a pretty good game last week, albeit, the Giants are a little banged up on the wide receiver corps. But Toney showed up. I think it was like 60-some-odd yards, couple targets, catches. This guy's going to be good. Trust me, they did not draft this guy in the first round for nothing. Went to a very good Florida Gators school just, last season. Keep a very close eye out on Toney. I think it's only a matter of time until he is picked up in droves.
49ers at Cardinals.
So this actually isn't going to be my pick for a breakout or a fantasy star for this game. I actually just want to discuss him real quick. Is James Conner returning to form? In a lot of our keeper leagues, he's just stayed on people's benches for now, and everyone's been real patient with him. After posting a 5-point, then a 2-point PPR performance back-to-back, he has now had 2 touchdowns in each of his last 2 games. Isn't averaging too many yards a carry, and he's only a little bit involved in the receiving game, but that's okay. He's vulturing those goal line TDs, and sometimes that's more worth it than having a running back that touches the ball 20 and 25 times. He actually outscored Chase Edmonds, who had 120 yards rushing on only 12 carries. So while Edmonds seems to be the running back one with consistent value, James Conner is actually outpointing him every week. Keep your eye on this guy if he's been dropped in any of your leagues.
Yeah, and I'm going with the running back on the opposite side of the ball. Trey Sermon, who now has started, per se, the last 2 games, has only gotten better right now with the 49ers. I believe this is a guy, yet again, who got drafted for a reason, in a Kyle Shanahan schemed offense. They said this was the perfect fit for them. They do not have a true definitive back right now out there in San Francisco, and I think it is only a matter of time until Trey Sermon is that guy. Watch for him very closely. Like you're saying with James Conner, Ryan, if this guy's being dropped, just pick him up, stash him. What's it going to hurt? Let's see what happens going forward.
Bills at Chiefs.
Another guy I just want to point out from a fantasy perspective to keep your eye on in this game is going to be Darrell Williams. I know he hasn't gotten a ton of touches yet. He's only 7% rostered, and this is actually my problem. If you have Clyde Edwards-Helaire, you need to be aware of Darrell Williams right now. He's got 2 touchdowns on the season. He actually had 10 carries for 42 yards and a TD in the last game with a couple of catches for 16 yards. 12.8 PPR fantasy performance in our half-point receiving league. Clyde Edwards-Helaire has been fumbling the ball almost every game. I know he's only lost 2 of them, but it's starting to get into a shaky situation where I don't know if Andy Reid is always going to be able to depend on him. Darrell Williams is probably going to see more playing time going forward. Maybe not up against Buffalo, who has a pretty good front 4, but keep your eye on him. Again, if you own Edwards-Helaire, you need to handcuff Darrell Williams now.
I'm going Zach Moss on this one. I am staying on the Zach Moss train. This guy is a runner, and I saw any of the last week's game, but he looked like he was running with compassion. I love Zach Moss up and down. A great player at Utah. I think this guy, it's only a matter of time until Devin Singletary essentially becomes the Devin Singletary of old, which is, who's Devin Singletary again? Zach Moss is the guy. You have got to pay very close attention to him, and if he is still available on waivers wires, don't be too late to pick him up now.
Colts at Ravens.
I am going to say that the Ravens, who had a very slow start to the season, have a dominating performance in this one. We saw them up against Denver. They sacked Drew Lock because Drew Lock sucks. Drew Lock, I can't believe you got to play another down in this league. I look forward to seeing you fail if you do come back to play again, but that's a story for another time. I think Rob addressed that. Indianapolis has a terrible offense at the moment. I think it's mostly Jonathan Taylor, and who the hell is Mo Alley Sucks Cox? He's the same guy we saw last year. You get a couple of touchdowns, everyone picks him up, he doesn't do shit, they drop him again. Carson Wentz can't handle the heat. This is it. Ravens defense is going to get a couple of sacks, couple of picks, maybe even a return for a touchdown. Ravens defense needs to be streamed in your lineups again this week.
Yeah, I agree completely with what you're saying here, Ryan. I think this has got to be over. Carson Wentz is done. I mean, the guy's bobbling on 2 freaking sprained ankles right now. You know, there's one really interesting statistic. Michael Pittman Jr. is the most targeted wide receiver this season with, I believe, 36 targets without a single touchdown. That goes to show you how bad Carson Wentz really is. Ravens defense is going to feast in this game, and the Ravens are going to win this one in an extreme blowout. No doubts about it.
And that's going to do it for our Week 5 preview for fantasy football. If you actually listen to us, you deserve every ounce of pain that you get coming your way. Once again, this was Rob and Ryan with Fantasy R&R. We will see you next time.
Oh, we will.